Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, May 30th edition, a Friday morning. I am Marsh. I'm joined this Friday by Yells. Good morning, Yells. A happy Friday morning to you.
Top of the morning, sir.
We've got plenty to get to. We've got still only one team headed to the SWBA finals. Neither you nor I. A shout out as I need to do to B-Ron for taking the host chair yesterday in the immediate aftermath of UCLA's national championship. So we'll talk a little bit of that. We'll talk a little bit of the Minnesota uh, reverberations of their loss in Oklahoma City. But let's start with the Knicks surviving. New York, huge game, a defensive game. They stay alive, forcing Game 6, headed back to Indiana in a win that I was not at all surprised that they got. I did not see this New York team, with all the talent that they have, going out at home in front of MSG crowd. This was a foregone conclusion to me that the Knicks were winning.
For sure. Um, I'll go ahead and step a little further than that. I, it only makes sense that it would go seven in whatever direction they go from there. But the Knicks, that's how they've played all season. That's how they've played all playoffs. They are the underdog. They like to fight from behind. Um, and there's something about them fighting from behind that really brings out the best version of some of their players, a la my most hated player, Carl Anthony Towns. 24 big
Yeah,
points.
he
Go
was
ahead, Mark,
big.
please.
I was gonna say your most hated guy went off for the second
Oh,
time in this series. He's the only reason that the New York Knicks are not swept in this. He was huge in Game
absolutely.
3 in that fourth, and he was huge last night.
He look. Another thing could be said. Maybe I'll take my time getting back to that one. But Carl Anthony Towns, he showed up when he comes out and he sets the tone. And this maybe has some implications across other topics we'll talk about. When your big man says, "I'm going to force the issue," I'm going to force the defense. That really takes the pressure off of a Jalen Brunson. That takes the pressure off of Mikal Bridges. Not that he had a huge game, but Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, they can get some open looks, get some confidence. They don't have to work as hard, and they can put that energy onto the defensive end. One thing always connects to another, but a lot of times back in the days in the 90s, early 2000s, and it looks like it's coming back nowadays, the big skilled big man willing to get his big self into the paint, even if that starts from the perimeter and you say, I'm going to penetrate the inside, which Carl Anthony Towns does, it just puts so much pressure on the other team, and it opens your team up. And I'll add this before I give it back to you. The Knicks, they just, again, I the confidence that they get when they come from behind, because they've done it so many times, it's almost as if they prefer to do that. Not that they played from behind from a score standpoint in this one, but it's just the energy drawn from, oh, it's over, let's prove them wrong. This is a team made up of people that said, I dare you to doubt me.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of these guys on this team, that's in their DNA, and you see how how it plays out. We'll see what happens in Game 7, because I'm calling Game 7, but that's how they operate.
Well, what I saw in this one, and this is why people will continue to ask the question: Is Tyrese Halliburton a star? Right? Because he has a after in Game 5, maybe one of his best performances. I don't know if there's a maybe. I think without a doubt his best performance. But what I thought the Knicks did a great job of last night was ensuring that the Pacers could never play at the pace that they wanted to. Right? I mean, you saw it so many times in the first 5 games of this series that the Pacers were just running at Mach 3. They were getting the ball, and they were breaking out, and they were trying to get the ball down court. And I thought the Knicks did a fantastic job of stopping that. They would push, but every single time they crossed half court, they would switch on the defensive end. They kept the ball on the perimeter. They didn't allow Tyrese Halliburton to be the maestro that he was in Game 5 with the basketball. They said, we are going to make you guys play at a much slower pace. And these are two teams that play at the polar opposite ends of the pace spectrum. The Knicks want to play slow. They want to grind it out. They want Jalen Brunson to dissect it, and they want their defense to get set and be physical. The Pacers want to do the exact opposite of that. And in a series in which the Pacers have been more successful in instilling their pace, the Knicks did a fantastic job, and you see that with the fact that every single starter for the Pacers outside of Pascal Siakam was minus 20 or worse, right? And then Obi Toppin off the bench was minus 26. The same on the other side. You've got your starters minus Mitchell Robinson all at least plus 13 because the starters were able to establish and say, we're going to play at this tempo. Our defense is going to get set. You're not going to be able to ramp up the speed in this game, and the Pacers couldn't.
Well, I'll break it down basketball wise for a moment for some of our casual fans at home too. Tom Thibodeau, this can really turn into a battle here because Tom Thibodeau, regardless of what we want to say about him running a short rotation, he is a great coach defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's not stubborn and willing to make the adjustment which he made last night, that's a whole other thing. Rick Carlisle is an offensive savant. Thibodeau likes to run either a ice on a pick and roll, he likes to ice it, or he drops. But what he did last night is he said, because of that pace that the Pacers play with, right, and what Rick Carlisle was able to do, and what Halliburton did was just insane. I don't know if we got a chance to talk about that. At least you and I didn't. It was insane the other night. He said we're not going to give them space. We can't just drop off and allow them to do that in the pick and roll. We can't ice them because they move the ball so well at such a frenetic pace. That's not going to work. We're going to touch them up. We're going to rotate to that weak side and cut off the first two options, and then we play ball from there. Excellent adjustment. We'll see what Carlisle does now for Game 6.
They'll definitely need to get a better performance out of Aaron Nesmith, who looked labored with that sprained ankle that he's dealing with. He had a rough night, and if you only get 7 shots from Tyrese Halliburton, that's going to be a big conversation the rest of today and heading into Game 6. In the same way that Anthony Edwards, who we're about to talk about, dealt with those same issues after their Game 4 loss. 7 shots from Tyrese Halliburton, an ineffective night from him on the heels of maybe his best night in the SWBA. Let's go to the Wolves, who fall in a game that they led for about a minute in. They led 3-0 after a Julius Randle 3, and they never led again in a blowout loss at the hands of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Watching that game, same night as UCLA winning a national championship, watching that game, you look and you saw just the waves and waves of options that the Thunder have, and offensively, when Anthony Edwards was not with the basketball, that offense was brutal to watch. And I just wonder, what help does he need? Because the Julius Randle trade was a good one. It got you back to the exact same spot you were last season, but it didn't make you a better team. They need to get a better team because Anthony Edwards, at 23 years old, is the future of this league. He is a dynamic athlete, but he does not have the pieces on that roster to be successful beyond what he's gotten to over the last 2 years.
I'm gonna be highly critical here. I love Anthony Edwards. I love his game. I like the comparisons in his play style to Michael Jordan. I love all of it. He What he needs is a point guard. That's to me what he needs.
Oh,
He
yeah.
needs a facilitating
Yeah.
point guard. I don't want to see Anthony Edwards bringing the ball to court. I love Dante. I love Big Ragu. That's my guy. But I need a facilitating
Yeah.
point guard that knows where to get the ball in spots. What I don't like to see from Minnesota, and I feel like it was their downfall, many times Anthony Edwards is forced to do what a lot of NBA players do, or SWBA players do now, excuse me, is they let teams off the hook. The number of threes that he takes before he puts pressure on the defense, I don't like it. The number of at the rim layups that I see him miss, I don't like it because he's forced to labor with the ball in his hand to force all the
Yeah.
action. He plays the defense, and then they surrounded him with players that have to take an immediate jump shot, or they have to make an immediate cut, or they have to make an immediate slash with the ball. No creation. You get a point guard. If you're going to bring in Julius Randle, the high pick and roll with Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle sounds good on paper, but if the defense can take 2 players out of the game, which it's not really hard to do if you put them in the same spot on the court,
Yeah.
now what? And then you leave Rudy Gobert out there. It's they need a point guard, Marsh. Simple and plain. I mean, a Chris Paul would work. An old cagey vet that just says, you get there. Great, Anthony. You can take this, man, but give me the damn ball so you can go get some off-ball action.
Well, they sort of have that in Mike Conley, and I'll spiel with a whole bunch since we don't have 45 minutes for us
He,
to talk
he
about
has
the
not
seventh.
played that way in this
He
series, Mark.
he did not. No, he
No,
didn't.
he's off the ball very often. I'm sorry to say that. It's shocking how often he's off ball.
Mike Conley, yes. Well, here's why. So, watching that game, the first takeaway I had was Anthony Edwards labored to get to his shots. And in the first 5 minutes, he had at one point no shots through the first handful of possessions because Lou Dort was hovering all over him and not allowing him to do anything. And then as soon as he did get the ball, which took a great deal of effort to get him the ball because you had to do aggressive back cuts and juke in and outs to just even get the basketball, he's exploding downhill to get to the paint, and he's having to finish, which he was doing a great job of, but through three guys. If he wants to get a three-point shot, it had to be an explosive step back to get the space over Lou Dort. And I'm sitting there watching saying, this isn't sustainable. This type of energy output required to get a singular shot. So yes, they need a point guard, but they also need somebody that can move the defense. Because when this offense actually looked coherent at parts of the second and third quarter, was when they were breaking down the defense. They were getting into the paint. The ball was swinging around, but the problem was it's ending up in the hands of Jaden McDaniels in the corner, and he's missing threes. And there was a point. So Jaden McDaniels, I think, took 3 threes from the play side corner in the first 5 minutes. After he missed the third one, was watching him run back down the court, and you just see him hang his head, drop his shoulders, and walk back. And this game is still, I knew it right then. He's not going to have a good day. He is already in his own head. He's saying, I can't even hit the wide open corner three. They're leaving me wide open. I've got these jagaloons behind me in the courtside seats that are yelling at me that are Oklahoma City fans. And he looked miserable. And you could see that play out with his play. He was not comfortable. They need somebody. It can be a point guard. It could be Rob Dillingham, who looked decent in, granted, completely garbage time. And I don't quite know why they didn't try him out at any point in the series, as we're seeing other rookies. I mean, Jarris Walker had a huge game, or had a good game, I should say, for Indiana last night as a rookie. They need somebody that can just flex the defense. Julius Randle couldn't do that. Julius Randle is a power guy. I mean, he had so much success because he could just be overwhelmingly physical against Draymond Green, against the Warriors. They didn't allow for power, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They need somebody that can flex the defense, that moves the defense, that opens up lanes for Anthony Edwards. I don't care if it's a point guard, if it's another wing. I don't care who it is. But that's what they need. They need a downhill threat. And honestly, last night, Karl Anthony Towns looked like that guy. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns looked exactly like that guy.
Don't you dare. You never know what you're going to get, but you're absolutely right. I just say a point guard for my own personal reason, but
I don't disagree.
I think in another way what you're trying to say, when you say flex and move the defense, Marsh, across all sports, I always find a way to bring my son into the equation. He plays little league basketball, whatever you want to call it. In all sports, your goal is to get the defense off kilter and moving the wrong direction. In every single sport, that's how it works. If you can't get the ball moving and you can't get someone to create a shot, either with the ball or by getting the ball to someone else, defense is easy. And that's what you're talking about. You make shots with your legs. That's why I've seen Anthony Edwards missing at the rim. They're defended. Sometimes he's gassed. He can't take those shots. It's all legs. His legs are gone unless he gets somebody to get him some easy buckets.
And I'll tell you what, he is, like, some of the layups, I'm watching that, and I'm just like, I can't believe you're getting up there. Like, the verticality that this guy, 6'4", is getting to is stunning. He is such an explosive athlete. I think before we move to college, I think he is becoming a product of his own, his success is becoming detrimental to him. In what I mean by that is he's now lost 2 straight Western Conference Finals. That's going to start being what people talk about. In the same way that people talked about, well, the Boston Celtics, these guys can't finish the deal. Oh, I'm sorry that Jason Tatum, as a rookie, helped the Boston Celtics make it in a very bad Eastern Conference, the conference finals. Like, they had a really good young team that just had success before they were really supposed to have success. Like, if you look at the Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 26. Like, that's when you are supposed to peak. Steph Curry won his first championship at 26. LeBron James was 27. That's when you should be doing it. Anthony Edwards is out-kicking his coverage right now. So I just want to make sure we all, as a collective group, don't start to hold this against Anthony Edwards, because he's doing it far earlier in his career than he should. He just needs help, because he cannot do it alone. There's not much more that he needs to do outside of, if you listen to Chris Finch's interview today, he needs to learn how to draw fouls, which I hope is not the case, but unfortunately is the way the league is trending. All right, let's head to college basketball, where UCLA are our national champions. They took a page out of the Xavier Musketeers' playbook, and it was the defense of UCLA plus a little bit of offense. Scored 70 points. I told Sniper that was the number. Get into the 70s, they win this basketball game, and they did just that. UCLA, for the second time in non-John Wooden era, we're talking one of the most storied programs in college basketball. Just their second non-John Wooden era national championship. Your thoughts on a really impressive game?
It stretches beyond the game for me. It stretches to all of Hoopsteria. We've seen them all season. Look, I was the first to criticize defensively. I was like, hey, they can get up and down the court, but that's to their detriment, and that's how they lose games. For as many points as they score, you can outscore them. From the Super 16 on, defensively, someone slapped Tyson Franklin, or Franklin Tyson, excuse me. Someone woke up LaGerald Carroll offensively, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the team just rallied behind him. You know what you're going to get from Jalen Snow. At the point that I saw them once the grade eight started, I started to question, how do you beat them? They're all of the things that have happened. Yes, we saw Alabama knocked out. We saw Duke. We saw all of the top guys. But the way that UCLA was playing on both ends, they looked unbeatable. Franklin Tyson he's gotten some accolades, yeah, but yeah, we're gonna talk about Jalen Snow. We're gonna talk about LaGerald Carroll, which for a lot of the season, Marsh, we didn't talk about LaGerald Carroll either. Like, is he gonna get it together? Boy, did he ever. You could add that in with Franklin Tyson saying, hey, you're not gonna even get a shot off in this paint. I'm gonna big boy you. I'm gonna grab rebounds. JJ Ortega finding the right man. There's so many. As we just finished talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves not having the right pieces, the UCLA Bruins look like a college team with all of the absolute perfect pieces in the perfect positions. It was the right time. Kudos to them. Um, Excited, for the future of Xavier. Hopefully, they're able to retain Sean Miller. Um, Kudos to them making it that far in the Cinderella story, but I believe what was supposed to happen exactly happened, and that might have been the outcome that we saw no matter who was on the other side of that bracket.
Yeah, UCLA just did to the last point. I don't think there was a team in Hoopsteria that was better than them, and it's not like they didn't play a tough schedule. Yeah, you didn't have to play Virginia Tech, but you still had a really rough schedule. Jackson State was no slouch in the second round. San Diego State was a really talented basketball team, and then of course taking down Alabama, who looked like the best team in college basketball as they rampaged through a really challenging South region to get to the quad. UCLA did everything that people thought they were supposed to do in a tournament when every other top team faltered at some point. UCLA didn't. There wasn't a game that, like, UCLA didn't have a win like Arizona, right? Where Arizona storms back out of nowhere and pulls this incredible upset. They didn't have a questionable, in the same way that Miami rampaged through Hoopsteria a season ago. There
No one
wasn't a.
remembers that now, Marsh.
What's that?
No one remembers that now. I'm just saying.
No, but that's what UCLA did. UCLA wasn't sitting there saying, "Man, we just need a couple buckets to survive." I mean, yeah, not every single game was the 10-point margin that Miami had, but UCLA played, and then last night was just or 2 nights ago rather, was a culmination of that defense showing up. And if you walked out of that arena and said, "Okay, 41% shooting from UCLA," sounds like Xavier got to play their style of basketball. And Xavier did, except UCLA said, we're actually going to do what you do, and we're just going to do it even better. And Miller McCabe, good luck on your 4 of 19 night. Braylon Burleson, you've been the talk of the town next to McCabe. You're going to take 5 shots and be completely ineffective in them. You guys as a whole are going to shoot 33%. We're going to be fine. And that defense, that ability to force 11 turnovers, to be +7 in the turnover margin, to be +4 on the offensive rebounds, everything about that, UCLA just flexed the muscle and said, we do not care what style you want to play. We'll play fast, we'll play slow. We're going to beat you regardless.
Franklin Tyson is just a freshman. JJ Ortega is probably going to take another year. I
Yeah,
fully, wholeheartedly anticipate the Snowman's getting out of there.
he's gone.
Excuse me, LaGerald Carroll has greatly improved his stock. I can imagine, I can see him getting into a round, in the draft. But they're bringing in some kids. They're coming off of a championship year. Confidence does a lot for a team. They're going to be scary too next season, Marsh.
It's a dangerous group. I mean, it's a that's always the challenge, right? Is the repeat. We've seen
You
UCLA
still got
or
Blaine Kidd. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. They still have him.
There's pieces coming back. There's freshmen that are going to fill the coffers. Mick Cronin has got UCLA in one heck of a spot, and he's now got them as national champions. Still the most in all of college basketball, but just their second national championship since the 1970s when the John Wooden era and that complete dominance ended. Just their second national championship since then. You got something to close out.
I can tell when you're going to close out. Let me get this out real quick. The theme of all the topics today, which you talked about Halliburton, we talked about Anthony Edwards' struggles in that series in the SWBA, and now we just talked about Burleson and McCabe not being able to get their shots off. The best defense is to prevent people from even shooting the ball. Just listen up, kids. That's the best defense, is to prevent the shot attempt from going up in the first place.
Or allowing them to shoot it 19 times with a guy that is not really that efficient of a scorer, and he ends up making 4 of them.
Yeah, force the guy that you want to shoot, not the other one.
Yeah, and Xavier certainly did not have a lot of guys that were going to be efficient. They needed that game to be the Memphis game when Memphis scores 44. It was not. They needed 25% shooting from UCLA. They didn't get that. UCLA national champs. Oklahoma City headed to the finals. The Pacers will try on Saturday to join them there. The Knicks, meanwhile, try to force this thing back to Madison Square Garden. You've got the Knicks in Game 6. I've got the Pacers.
They're celebrating on Saturday.
I've got the Pacers. I think they're closing out at home. That place, I've been to Gamebridge. That place is a blast. That place is a freaking blast.
There's nothing else to do. So
it's going to be jumping in Indianapolis on Saturday night. All right, that's our show. We're back on Monday. We'll recap all that happens over the weekend if we have a finals matchup or if we've got one more game to figure out who's coming out of what has been a very entertaining Eastern Conference. We'll talk all that on Monday on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.